Maurice and Tom Stewart. Come on up. Maurice doesn't need a lot of introduction, but I'll give a little bit of one anyway, since we are here. I don't think it's safe to say we would not be here if we're not for Maurice. So big thanks for that. Tom Stewart is a reformed journalist. Is that all right? Used to be at Fortune magazine, then was running Harvard Business Review. Now is Chief Knowledge Officer at Booz & Company, who are one of our delightful sponsors here today, and we're responsible for that lovely cocktail party last night, so special thanks to both of them. They're going to have a half-hour chat about transformations. I said this was originally going to include Didier Lombard, who unfortunately got taken off to the Southeast Asia by the President of France, so we'll have to somehow or another survive without him. So, gents.
I'm a little bit shocked to see that he prefers to go with Nicolas Sarkozy than to be with us, and I will tell him personally.
Please, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all. Spencer has announced, as also the program has, that the topic of this discussion is transformation. It's a topic that we can take in any number of directions. But I was thinking, as we've heard this morning and this afternoon about what people have been saying, we've talked about how the internet and digitization generally has sort of taken and transformed music and is now transforming or deforming or unforming or melting away newspapers and magazines. And as we kicked off the morning, we heard that a theme of today and tomorrow is going to be the collision and the intersection, the transformation of television by the internet. We just heard movies as well. I sort of think of perhaps a line of dominoes falling, or to pick up the metaphor that Mike Taibbi used about Goldman Sachs in an article in Rolling Stone a little while ago, in which he compared Goldman Sachs to a giant vampire squid over the market of capitalism. You wonder whether the internet is a giant vampire squid transforming medium after medium after medium. We've also heard a lot about, and many of the people in this room have talked about, advertising and about how the sites that they're building, the content that they're creating, that is going to be supported by advertising, is an advertising-driven business model. We've had an extraordinary debate about print versus paid this morning. And so we've had a lot of people talking about advertising, but we now actually have the advertising in the room. We have the money as well as our host. And I think that I would like to begin by saying people have talked about advertising and supporting business models from advertising. What does advertising have to say to this hope?
First of all, I think it's important to notice that it's normal that all businesses will be transformed simply because digital will transform the life of the people. And the impact of digital on the life of the people is something which has never been experienced before. You can take any media, and no one technology has transformed the way people are getting education, getting news, getting knowledge, getting access to a lot of information, people, etc. So it's really changing the life of the people. So it's normal that it is changing the business model of the various companies, particularly the one which have a link with the media. I wanted to make this point. Regarding now advertising, there is a reality, and there is also something which is making me always smiling, because I see so many new systems, options, devices, solutions, websites, ideas, which will be funded by advertising, as if advertising has unlimited resources. It's kind of manna which is coming from the sky, and there is someone who is pouring this manna on Facebook, Google, Yahoo, etc., and there will be infinite money. The reality is a little bit different. I wish it would be this case, because this would naturally be good for us. Unfortunately, it's not exactly that. And we have to see that there will be some who will be highly successful, because what they are inventing, creating, developing is something which will be adopted by the consumer, and the consumer will matter to the advertisers, and therefore they will be ready to fund it. But there will be less selected than people who will go running for the race. So if we have 100 people going for getting money for advertising, we will probably find that at the end of the day there is maybe 10, 15% which will have sufficient money. Sufficient money, which means that they will get enough money to be more than breaking even. And this is something which we have to be perfectly aware of. We should not expect advertising to cover all the expenses of all the ideas. It will not be the case.
You yourself are operating or running an advertising agency or maybe a collection of advertising services companies that is itself transforming and adapting to this semi-digitized world, if we could call it that. You just recently placed a bet in buying Razorfish. You've bought you are now, I think, are the #1 agency altogether in terms of advertising, in terms of digital advertising money play, or ads placed. On the other hand, just as digital or analog dollars have turned into digital nickels in some cases for media companies, the margins in digital advertising have been lower. Are you going to be able to rebuild your own margins? What is Publicis going to look like in terms of its revenues in 5 years and then perhaps in 10 years? What will it look like in terms of revenues and in terms of margins?
I think that there is first a strategic move, which is very important, and it is true that we have made a huge bet. For the time being, it looks like we are winning, but there are still a lot of things to be done to prove that the model that we are developing is a winning one. But I believe that we have taken such an advance on our competitors that normally I don't see how they can catch up with the position we have. And the first thing which is very important is how can we best serve our client? And we can't best serve our client and we cannot fulfill our duties of developing great communication for our client and reaching out to the right audience without having access to the new digital world. And we want to be the dominant force in that digital world. And it looks like we are quite successful in building a specificity in that field, which will give us much more revenue than any of our competitors, and which will give us also a profile which will make us, as we say in French, incontournable, unavoidable, people that you have to go to if you want to advertise correctly, if you want to reach your right audience, if you want to have the state-of-the-art technique, and if you want to have the most effective and the most efficient advertising campaign. So that is something which strategically has a lot of value, because in the future game, you will be in or you will be out. So normally, we should lead the future game. Now, regarding the margin, it is true that the value in digital is less advertising dollars than the value in classic media. Why? This is back to the conversation of this morning, because there is a lot of websites and there is a lot of audiences which are free. And as the content is free, necessarily the price of the audience is not as expensive as the price of an audience when the content is expensive. And I'm not sure that they are doing a good service to them by using this kind of tariff price level, because I believe that this is something which, at the end of the day, may well have a backlash effect on the digital media. So we will have less revenue. This doesn't mean necessarily that we will have less margin. And based on our model, normally if the entire digital world will have less revenue, as we, Publicis, we will be ahead of our competitors, we should get much more revenue from that field, and we should outperform all our competitors, which is what we do today. And I think that there will be an acceleration between the growth that we are already having and the growth that we will be having tomorrow with the integration of Razorfish. And normally we will, at the end of the day, get much more advertising dollars than any of our competitors. So therefore, the loss of value will be compensated or offsetted by the gain of market share. Mm-hmm. And as we are pretty good or not so bad at managing the monies, we should normally deliver the same kind of margin or even better margin. So at the end of the day, I believe that we will be winning on the two tables. On the table of growth, where we should have a far better growth than any of our competitors, which is the case today, I have to say it, not only on average, but you can take any of our competitors, and on margin, which is also the case today. So I think that we are inventing a model which will be the winning one for the future.
In your view there, you've described a view in which the advertising agency, or at least this advertising agency, is in the center. I mean, is at the hub of the marketing media ecosystem. There are plenty of people, including some in this room and including some like Google with whom you have strategic alliances, who are in the business of disintermediating the advertising agency and who have a view of the advertising agency in which you are not in the middle, but advertising agencies as a whole are marginalized, are moved to the margin. What makes you think that you actually can retain a position in the center? What is it that clients want that requires you to be in the center?
I don't want to be rude because you are our guest and you are the moderator. So normally I should be very polite, and my English is not good enough to be diplomatic enough. But if you look at what Eric Schmidt has said recently, he was my guest at the Cannes Festival. And I tried to be like you, a journalist, and to put, like a good journalist, a difficult question. So I asked him about the failure, and particularly regarding if he does consider that the idea of being at the center and everything which has been built with radio, press, etc., is something which will work or not. And he has said, but it's only Eric Schmidt, so I don't know if that is the point of view of Google. He has said that in his view, this was a little bit far-fetched, and that in fact they went too far in the idea of becoming at the center. And I believe that the model of Google, which is the most successful model, and I think we should all give a fantastic tribute to what has been done, is a model based on algorithm, math, and scale, which is everything but the customized need of each of our brand and each of our advertisers. Advertisers like to have models which can measure, which can analyze, and I think analytics and measurement is key for the future. But what they need more is to reach the right audience and through all the possible touch points, not only the digital media. And if you have a model which is great for digital media and where you spend, I don't know, 20, 15, 25% of the advertising budget, there is still 80, 85%, 75%, which is spent in other media. And therefore, it's very important to be at the center, to see how you are spending the money, what is the best tool to reach the audience, how you can best serve the client and create the right connection between the brand and the end consumer, and how you can interact. And it's not always through digital. Digital plays a very important role, but it does play only a very important role. There are some other medium which are very crucial. For example, simply the last mile. When you have shopper marketing, this is what can transfer a sale from a consumer who came in a shop to buy a product, and at the end of the day, is getting out of the shop with another product or another brand. So it's very important to really understand the consumer, understand his journey, understand how he is shopping, and understand the brand and how you are connecting. So there is still a lot of things to be done. Where Google is absolutely unbeatable is on two areas. The first one is on search. And on search, clearly, they are top of the game, and for a long period of time, and I believe that it will be very difficult to beat them. And for ourselves, we are very pleased to work with Google, to work with Microsoft, with Yahoo, and we don't see that we are competing against them. We see that we are partnering. The second area where Google is also unbeatable is the area of what we call the long tail. These small or very small advertisers who feel very happy to give almost all their monies to Google, and it is very effective, very efficient, very limited creativity, very limited issues. Most of the time it is a geo-local issue where the people are and to advertise in that area, period. And this is working extremely, extremely well. So I think that they have still huge margin to grow. And before they change the model to something which is based on headcount, on creativity, on a lot of issues, strategic planning, how do we get the right audience, what have we to say to these people who want to buy our product, etc., before they get there, which is a cheap market. They will see our margin, they will be in tears. And this will destroy their model. So they will let us live quietly with our small business, and they will be happy to see that we are distributing more money to them.
So what you defined, I believe, an advertising universe and a marketing universe, let's broaden it a little bit, that in which a lot of digital advertising is locked out of strategy, strategic planning, brand building, and creativity. And you've basically said that you will have, or Publicis and its competitors should be able to create a competitive advantage in those three crucial areas. Actually, when we were talking on the phone before this, you described the anomaly of the fact that that right now the most memorable advertising that's going on is a television advertising war between Apple and Microsoft, in which these digital products are fighting a battle on broadcast advertising.
I think it's funny, including Yahoo recently. It's funny to see that people will. It's not the case of Google. Google doesn't spend any penny in advertising. It doesn't believe in advertising. That the reason it does spend. This is a call for Google. So if they are in the room, they should listen to that, and maybe one day they will come to us. We are open in that field. As
a partner, would they get a discount?
We can start discussing, but you see, we are losing value every day. You yourself are pushing us to deliver some discount. Going back, it's amazing to see that Microsoft, Yahoo, and many players, Apple, etc., people who are selling digital devices or digital services or digital applications are using the classic media to sell their product. So this means that, including these people, they do believe that there are still some value. So it's back to the conversation of this morning. I think it's good for a debate and to make strong points with radical views. Yes, the world will be free tomorrow, or no, the world will be pay TV or pay news tomorrow. Okay, so that's good because it's provocative and it's making the debate more interesting, and it's nourishing the controversy. The reality is very different. The reality that we need a little bit of both. We need free, because free is something which is catching the audience, and it is creating very large audiences, millions of friends. I don't know how many friends Mr. Obama has on Facebook, but a lot of friends. We have seen Loic, who has shown us that he has already 3 million unique visitors a day already. So it's quite impressive. So it has to be free to get there. At the same time, if everything is free, the economy will not work. At least in the world I know. I don't know tomorrow if we can produce for free product that we can sell for free, and how we are compensating for free the people. And we are giving free ticket to go nowhere in a free economy. So that is a possibility. So we say, okay, you are working for me for free. I wish I can have a few of them. So we know that it's nice to speak this way and to be provocative, but the reality is much more complex. And for digital media, the reality is also much more complex. We are partnering with Google, and we are very proud of this. We are partnering with Microsoft. We are very proud of this. And we see that we can bring, first we are fearless. So we have not thought, oh my God, if I'm partnering with Google, I will share my knowledge of the consumer, I will open the door to my advertisers. But for Christ's sake, the door of the advertisers are open, they have access to them, they don't need us. So to be a kind of obstacle or barrier or fence between the advertiser and Google or Microsoft is a big mistake, because we show clearly that we belong to the past. And second, to try to be the sole owner of the knowledge of the consumer is something which is not only arrogant, but highly pretentious. So it's much better to share the knowledge, to be in this open world of digital world, and to show that, yes, with our knowledge, we can be a partner on an equal footing. We can bring something to the party, and they have to take us into account in that game. And I believe that this is something which will work for the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years. I don't know if it will work beyond 10 years. And that is the reason why it is so crucial to be the dominant player in our field in digital communication. If we are that dominant player, then we have a voice which is much bigger than any of our competitors.
What I hear you saying is that you have a set of capabilities. It is a coherent, cohesive set of capabilities inside Publicis. You have a set of services that you offer to your clients that map to those capabilities, and that means that when you go out with a Google, which has a set of another set of capabilities and a set of products and services that work there, that you can work together without, and that the mistake would be for you to try to be Google or for Google to try to be you, because you'd be a fish out of water or they'd be a land animal in the water. I mean, it would just, the capability system and what you're trying to do wouldn't mesh.
This is exactly what I'm saying. I believe that first we have not the ambition to be Google. We would like very much to just have something of Google, which is the multiple. If they can give us that, this is something I would be very happy to. And that is something, even something in between what they have and what we have. So I'm ready to negotiate on that field. But I'm not trying to be Google. I will never be able to be Google. So it's a lost battle. And I think it would be a big mistake for them. And I trust that they are much more intelligent, much more clever, much more wise than we are, we advertising people. And they know where the money is. They know what their margin is. And they know that they have a model which is based on scalability. In our field, every time we are winning a new client, we have to hire a lot of people. Every time Google is having more users, it is cash which is going directly to the bottom line. That's the difference of the model. So even if you know very little about business, you see the superiority of one model compared to the other one. So that's the reason why I believe it was a mistake to consider that Google is a frenemy or anything of this kind. And we went to them and we offered to partner. And we are having a wonderful partnership, and we are very proud of this. And I believe it's exactly the same for Microsoft. But Microsoft had one advantage on Google. They tried with Razorfish, and they saw that the model is not fitting exactly with what they have.
Let me ask, we have time for one last question. And the question I'd like to ask you is partly a personal question, but also a question that has to do with businesses and business models, because I think we've been talking about continuity and change, about recognizing your strengths and keeping to them and building them. Publicis as a firm is 83 years old, and you are the second chief executive of Publicis.
Yes.
And you have been the chief executive for 20-something years. The question I'm going to ask you is
22,
about 22 years.
Right. Acting as since 84, right. So 25.
So 25 acting as. The question I'm going to ask you is, in a rapidly changing world, how does a person, how does a leader, or by extension, how does a firm, a company, keep on top over this long period of time, at a time when the average tenure of CEOs is perhaps 4 years and going down? How do you keep ahead of a very rapidly changing world?
First, I have a very good news that Marcel Blanchet has been CEO for 60 years. I'm CEO for roughly, or acting as, for 25 years, so I have still 35 years to catch. So how are you going to do it? I'm going to see some genetician in order to some lifting, geneticians, good health, maybe not 35 years, maybe only 32 yet to go. More seriously, what is interesting is not the CEO. Obviously, CEO give a direction, CEO take decision, CEO has at a point in time to put all his strength in the balance to make a decision. What count are the teams. And without the team I'm surrounded with, I wouldn't say nothing, because this should be too immodest, and people would say, okay, again, a Frenchman was saying nothing. They will not trust me. But very little. Without the team with whom we have built the new Publicis, and myself alone, I would not have been able to do what we have done. So I think what's very important is the natural rejuvenation of the teams, the natural rejuvenation of the ideas, to be always on our toes, to be in danger permanently. And, you know, we advertising people who think we are always in danger. We are always fearing to lose an account. We are always fearing to see that a nasty, I would say, not them. Okay, a nasty competitor would try to steal our best teams or our best clients. So we live always with the idea that we will lose something, and we try to do our best to protect our business, to protect. And how we do that? We do that by taking risk, by being always on the dangerous verge of making the decision which are the most risky one, because these are the most rewarding one. So the name of the game is to risk a lot and to win more than you lose. You lose sometimes, and you have to accept to lose, and you have to accept the failures. And if you don't accept the failures, it's much better to stay at home. But if you want to make a decision, you have to take not only safe, secure decisions, because this will lead to a comfortable position, but where you will contain the losses, or you will contain the downgrading of your operation. But if you want to transform permanently the operation, you have to take chances. You have to take risk, and you have to live dangerously. And this is something which most of the time is leading to failures. And if you don't accept failures, as I said, you can't succeed. No way.
Thank you very much.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Maurice. Bien fait.
Bien fait.
Yes, extremely. Better than that. Tom, thank you so much.
Thank you.